Hell, can you hear me? Okay. Hello. So we are back with another episode with a new guest, Shadley Ark, and I just want to introduce Shadley Ark quickly. So joining us today, we have Shadley Hawk, a multidisciplinary mind with a background in English, law, psychology, and communication science. Currently sharpening his edge with postgraduate studies in information systems and marketing at the University of Cape Town. He balances academia with real world experience at South Africa's leading premium retail brand, which I won't mention because we don't want girls stalking him, bringing together people skills, systems, thinking, and ambition. Curious, adaptable, and driven, Shadley thrives in diverse teams and meaningful conversations. This is the kind of guy who doesn't just walk into a room, he integrates into it. Within 5 minutes, he knows everyone's names, their life stories, and somehow already has inside jokes with them. I've never seen him have beef with anyone, ever. If there was a global conflict, they'd send him first. Not soldiers, just him, a smile and a conversation, and somehow peace negotiations would be done by lunch. He's genuinely one of the rare people who's just good, easy to talk to, and easy to be around. The kind of guy your parents likes, your friends trust, and strangers feel comfortable opening up to for no reason. If vibes were currency, this man would crash the economy.
Oh my goodness.
And I've just met him this year, and it feels like I've known him my entire life. Welcome, Shali. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm
I'm
doing,
okay.
I'm doing fine. How's the work been so far in this holiday?
It is very busy, as you
Yeah.
all know. Festive season in Cape Town is not
Yes.
one to play with.
Yes. So, are we ready?
Are we ready?
Yes.
Are you?
I think so. Last time we didn't have any questions, so I think that if we do have questions, I think we can go over it if we do have any at Danielle. And I think we'll just start. So today's topic is, are humans inherently evil? And I want to start off with asking you, are humans born good, evil, or are they born neutral?
That's a that's a very subjective question. I mean, if you think about it, what is evil? Evil's just profoundly immoral, right? Or bad deeds, I think some would call it. And like, it's not to say who can be born as what, but like what is the origin of evil? Because then isn't everyone born neutral? Because no one can be born good, because then what is good? And no one can be born evil, because then what's evil? So surely everyone's born on a neutral note. What do you think?
I think I kind of agree with that. I think that there are like certain things, like for example, you as a even as a baby, you'd know like, okay, don't hit this person. Okay, there are some babies that hit people, but they are like, I mean, like mostly you'll see like they are inherently, we are like there's certain traits that we are born with, like, okay, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't do this, and some of it has to be taught, like, okay, you shouldn't shout, and you shouldn't in public gatherings, and you shouldn't but some of it is inherent in uh, human beings, and that kind of brings me to a question of, um, are evil people born or are they created? Like, is there a certain characteristic within a person that you think that's okay? This child's gonna be evil one day, or is it something that is created throughout of their life based on the environment? And that's just something that like I'm very curious about on your
To be
perspective.
honest, also for me, I think one thing to like note is I've never seen or heard of like a baby laughing or reacting in a good way to death. And I think like all of them either has like a fear towards it or some sort of propagation where it's like, that's bad. So that's how I know that babies surely, definitely, in my opinion, can't be evil. Because
So yeah. So I
it's
mean,
like
like
a trait that you develop when
over
you
time.
either within your child years at least, because that's why juvenile exists, because there's jail for bad kids. So that's a trait that you can only develop later on, in my view.
So you don't think, like, for example, okay, Ibrahim Mukadam says some babies are evil. But you don't think like there wasn't signs for that Hitler was gonna be turn out to be the person he was, or when he was a baby, like some babies like aren't they like more selfish, or you wouldn't like think like that, or is it like purely just environment? Like some babies aren't born with certain traits. I know that's a bit of a tough question for me. It's
I
like
feel like
I
it's
would
the
say like
same.
most babies that it's just like normal. I might be getting a bit too deep here. I think
Jeez, but
it's
I feel like that's why some people say that like the path to hell is paved with good intentions, because I mean the route to good nature or to evil is through intention itself. So I want to know like what creates that and what forms that to making a person what they are, which is the nature of good, evil, neutral, immoral, moral, bad.
okay. Yes, makes sense. So where do you think morality comes from? If you're talking about morality, how does a person like know? Okay, I shouldn't do this, and what do they base it off of? Is it law? Is it religion? And do you think like morality would exist, or morality would exist outside of religion or outside of law?
You
I
see, if religion didn't exist, maybe that would be like its own story. But like within the confines of religion, I think many people, based off their cultural heritage, that's what they use as a basis for what is good, what is bad. But if religion didn't exist, there'd still be laws, right? Because there were laws in, I mean, not so, let's call it religious countries in the past. And people have lived off those rules, whether they liked it or not. And also, it is to do with your upbringing, in my opinion. That's why I don't know why some people said that children could be evil, because I think that's things that they learn since they were young. That's conditioned in them.
okay. Yes. Danielle asks that assuming nurture contributes to. You just said Danielle's okay. No, okay. Assuming nurture contributes towards whether someone is evil, what would the role of the parents be then in nurturing that evil? Would you say? Because wouldn't parents also have an influence on their child?
No, but
Or
that's exactly where I wanted to get to. He's got the point on the head, because the parents play a role. But then again, some kids don't even have parents and they raised in a completely different way. But let's assume for all the kids that do have parents, let's start there. So you basically saying that they inheriting their traits, meaning based on their parents, whether they good or bad, depending how you view them, that's essentially what that child will view as right and wrong. And then again, that brings it back to a subjectivity point of view. Because is what they're really doing bad, or is what they're really up to good?
I guess that makes sense. Yes. Um, I want to tie it back to something else because Ibrahim asked, said that religion could arguably be an enforced morality, but I
That's
think I think that I don't think it's religion in of itself because religion teaches moral restriction, right? And corrupt people use religion sort of to their benefit in order to benefit themselves or the society. And another thing which you said earlier, you said that religion that you said something about that there have been societies that flourish that were non-religious, right? But I disagree with that because I think that you can't define. Well, obviously there is moral behavior without religion, but I don't think that you can um, sustainably ground morality on a certain basis without religion. And history proves this because as humans, like we all know that killing is bad, stealing is bad, and we need to cooperate with with each other to survive. But for me, I don't see this as morality. I see this as like sort of social what's the word? Um, social convenience. Like everyone wants to get along, so it's like social convenience. It's socially convenient. Does that make sense? So, and throughout history, for example, like if you don't have like religion as the ground basis, right? Then and you don't have a higher transcendent, then what kind of becomes morality? Then morality becomes relative, and morality becomes sort of like, okay, whoever has the most power, whoever's the head of the state, it's kind of like morality bends in favor of, okay, how does this benefit me, or how does this benefit the state? And we've seen this, for example, throughout history with the Marxist ideology, which completely rejects religion, right? They say that religion is the opium of the masses.
The
So,
opium. Heard it.
um, and this the follow up of this was that Stalin under communist Russia was one in communist Russia at that time was one of the most darkest periods throughout human history, right? So there was mass killings. There was the Gulag. I'm not sure if you familiar with Call
Oh,
of
the
Duty. The
gulags. Yeah,
Gulags, yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, there was even engineered famine, which shows that when you take religion away, morality becomes subjective to whatever is the best interest of the state. And that kind of brings me to my next question: is that um, um, so what kind of if you take religion away, right? What stops people with having that has a lot of power, right? What stops them, the people that have the most power, of defining what's good uh, in terms of what could benefit them and defining that as morality? What stops them?
So you want to know what could stop those, like they say, they're world leaders. What stops their morality and their decision making?
Yes, if you take religion out of the picture, what stops them?
Well, then again, do even today's world leaders follow the religious laws? I don't think so.
I might
And
be.
most world leaders are basically, let's call it multi-business owners, because that's why they're at the top. That's why they're earning the most money. And there's even those that we don't really know about, but they also in turn own something that makes them where they are now, which is up on the leaderboard in terms of earning money. But your point is what changes their moral decision making, right?
Yes, but also what stops them? If they have the most power, or why don't they say that something? Why don't they define something as good and then that actually just benefits them, and then they just define that as, okay, this is moral. That makes sense.
So they're the most influential people, or they're supposed to be at least. And this is like where you actually start to question, were they different before they got all that um, fame or that money? Because did that also change their decision making protocols? Did they become a different person because of, like, let's say, money, for example? Because we've seen like all the memes and stuff about money can change a person, but I think that is kind of true. So I think that, like, we don't even deserve to question some of them on their moral sense and capacity, because isn't it out of touch in another way? Because they're sitting at a different table compared to the average person. So their thinking capabilities should be different to the standard or the norm. And therefore, I think that on their level, certain people shouldn't be even considered on the same sense of moral grasp as others should. And just taking into proportion those specific types of people, do we even take on their word, their advice when it comes to moral principles and decision making? I don't know. And I personally don't think so.
I understand though, but wouldn't you say like they have a certain power over what they?
Influence,
Yes, they have a certain
I'd
influence.
call that.
And speaking of influence, right? I want to speak about influence a bit. So obviously, like status, money, power, and like clout, whatever.
Cloud.
Yes, I want to know like does social media actually expose evil, or is it creating evil? And that's a question like I want to know: is social media creating more evil or is it exposing evil?
Honestly, I think we. Okay, well, my close friends will know that I don't really like to use social media a lot. And it's like for those reasons, because mainly what you see is, well, provocative content.
Yeah.
Then again, it's also what you supposedly subscribe to. And I'm not saying I subscribe to that, but it's like mainly what comes across is I paint it as a negative picture because you get a lot of how can I how can I like pose this? Like it's kind of out of reality because people are posting what they think is the best or what is the best for them and things that like other people can't easily achieve, or I think it even puts some people down mentally because it's like, geez, they all have that and I've tried so hard, but like I can't get something like that and I want this also. And it just puts some people out of mind. I think we've seen it now on the news recently in Australia, for example, that they've kept social media for all teenagers or youngsters below a certain age. So now they can't use social media, and I see there's been backlash about it, and that other countries like New Zealand want to follow suit. And I saw the interview with I think one of the Prime Minister of Australia, and he was saying like we're not going to follow what the rest of the world does, and we actually want to put an end to this evil. So he clearly thought that social media is evil because that's what spikes the new generation, or I don't know what it's called. Is it Gen Alpha, the new one?
Isn't
That's
it
that's
Gen Z?
yeah,
I don't know.
that's what's
I mean, yeah.
comprehending their minds to think in a
Mm.
specific way. And I think that's a point that he was trying to latch onto, which is social media is a created disease to make people think in a certain way that is not good, that
Uh,
is, in my opinion, inherently evil.
Danielle wants to know that's
Okay,
Shadley, as
proceed.
an expert in psychology, what do you think the difference in effect of social media has on women versus men? I think that's a very
Now you
interesting question.
see,
I think that's a major difference. I think men, yeah, I
yeah,
think like
you go first. I
okay,
want to see this.
for me, I think that uh for women it's body image and okay, I have to look pretty, I have to look this, I have to wear makeup. For men, it's I have to be rich, I have to be jacked, I have to be this, and I think that it's all a negative effect. But I mean, there's things that's worse than that that I think that have a major consequence besides not only body image and money. So for me, personally, I think it has social media, especially Instagram, right? It has a very detrimental effect on your head, on your mind, because I'm not a couple of months ago, right? I was just like scrolling Instagram, and then I saw this video of this kid. He was playing with some toy. I think it was a Russian kid, and his hand blew off. It's not funny, okay, but it's not funny. And then I checked the comments as per usual, and as per usual, you know what Instagram comments are like. It's it's just people making jokes, right? So for me,
Yeah,
usually,
even if it's death, they still
yes,
make jokes about it.
yes.
That's
But
the
for me,
funny thing.
Instagram comments are funny, but not in instances like this where they're using other
It's
people,
real.
yeah, other people's pain as enjoyment and laughing. And the thing is that other people they look at these comments, right, and they laugh at it and they make jokes about it, and I think that kind of desensitizes people, right, to the fact of someone also suffering and they're making a joke out of it. And at the same time, it reveals a lot of how do I say it reveals a lot of trauma and um but it also makes people detached from it. So people they don't really care when it's happening to something. It kind of makes like empathy optional for some people. But also
Empathy is
on
optional.
yeah, but also I think social media
Point.
on the flip side is good also if you really think about it, because a lot of atrocities that are actually happening um, are being revealed by social media. For example, the Palestine genocide that's happening, right? So a lot of people wouldn't know what's happening in Palestine if it wasn't for social media, and they
Mm.
when they scroll, they're actually forced to watch it, right? And many of those people would just be oblivious to the fact they wouldn't even care. But because it's on the social media, not the people on social media, they are witnessing it on um
So, are you trying to argue that there is good to
I'm saying,
social
I'm saying
media.
yes, there is good because it exposes certain evils that wouldn't have been brought to light if it wasn't for social media.
But then that technically means that social media should be limited to certain capacities. And I think this brings it back to a moral standpoint, which is they should display what's good for people and limit what is bad,
Yeah,
as in,
but then you see
okay,
they wouldn't make money because the whole point is of Instagram that is that they're making money because people find that more entertaining and
well,
more
as
people
sad
will
as
stay
it
on Instagram.
is to say, the world does revolve around money. And I also want to like link this back to Mr. that asked the question about men and women. Yes, I agree
Okay.
that there is a major
Yeah.
difference to social media, and I think that also has a money aspect to it because I think someone like told me, someone once told me that like if you had to start up a profile of a man and a woman on Instagram and you only posted pictures of even their faces, the woman's more likely to get double or more than double the amount of followers that the guy will receive,
So
just on average.
do you think that would negatively affect the guy or the woman if the woman gets more followers?
So apparently, a lot of people are subjected to this feeling, this not good natured, well, this feeling of having like clout, having like more followers, having more attention, and that gives them like this dopamine effect that's like this is good. But on the other end, I think like the guy wouldn't really feel anything. Well, at least for me, it wouldn't. But I think other guys would feel, damn,
Yeah,
that doesn't feel good. So I actually get that standpoint, and I think that's also where the major difference comes in between men and women on social media, which is one is more likely to receive, more from it, while one has less to receive from it because the way it sounds from what you also depicted on social media is that it sounds like one has to actually do more than the other just to do better in life.
that's fair. Yes, that's fair. So, but which one are we talking about?
That's so obvious, and I don't want to
Okay.
get cancelled. Okay, but
Okay.
it's like men has to obviously do more
Okay, it's don't
according
get
to
cancelled.
how
Yeah.
social media is depicting it.
Okay. Okay, so that kind of brings me to my next question, which I want to know,
Okay.
like, obviously there were wars before social media and whatnot, and obviously there were evil things happening before social media, and I want to know, like, if humans, I want to know your perspective of, like, if humans are like inherently good, right? If like we,
Oh, I wouldn't say that, but okay,
okay,
yes,
well,
go ahead.
well, if you are good, inherently good, why do wars keep on happening throughout history? I'm just curious
Well,
on your
technically,
perspective.
it's still ongoing, right?
Yes, but why do they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But are you saying why would it continue?
Yes.
It doesn't. It doesn't seem like wars will ever end, in my opinion, at least. But I think a thing I learned within recent years is that war, as sad as it sounds, war does make the world go round. And remember what I said about money makes the world go round? Link that together. War is money.
I kind of,
War is money
yeah.
because it gets advertised on social media, right? Propaganda used to get advertised before World War One for to rally people up for the wars, and that's basically then you can see that as hype for the war. But now these times you have like social media that's obviously showing you live footage or even well, dare I say it, AI is even getting involved now, so you never even know sometimes. It's showing you what is happening, and that also helps people because it's now like I want to be involved, I want to contribute, I want to help, or I need to voice what's right. That's why you get all those comments and stuff. And this continues on that trend of why wars shouldn't or won't end because what is media? Media is basically money at the end of the day because the more distribution, the more engagement is more money. And if lives are at stake and people's actually dying and things are going on violently, people respond more to violence than anything else,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken.
But I have a question
And
though. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I have a question. So, if you say that like wars are like revealing human evil, right? Because through social media and whatnot, no? But it's not even the. Oh well. you said because money makes the world go round and whatnot because of. But I have a question though, because if wouldn't you also like say like wars are also like a sign that there's still good in a society in a certain way, because wouldn't you say that evil is always going to be persistent, right?
Evil is persistent.
Yeah, but there needs to be good people, otherwise evil will totally dominate, right? So in order for evil to not totally dominate, there has to be good people, and for every aggressor there's someone willing to protect, and for everyone that is um pushing the boundaries and doing evil, there has to be someone that's fighting back. So the fact that I think that there are wars, right? Wouldn't that be a sign that good is resisting evil? Because it's not only evil, it's a mixture of both evil and good. And the fact that
And
there
good.
is wars
Yeah.
is that there has to be a good side and an evil side.
I'm 90% on par with you because I believe that like wars do bring out the best and the worst in specific people because that tells someone's frame of mind. It tells, wait, I should protect this person because I know that they are or someone that's going to be good for the future, or something. And then that causes someone to, to oppose someone else that they think is wrong. But then again, like, that's why there's two sides because one thinks they're good, the other also thinks they're good. No one actually thinks they're evil, you see? So
I'm
it
pretty
becomes a
sure. I'm pretty sure
big.
that I'm pretty sure. Like if Hitler didn't think he was good, I'm not sure, but he probably didn't think he was good. But I think it's based on his ideology or whatever. But I mean, he was an evil person, even though he thought he was good. I'm pretty sure. Like even if people think they're good, they can be kind
That's
of
the
evil.
funny thing. Even if he
I think
thinks
they
he
are.
was good or bad, there was a lot of people that actually still agreed with, maybe not the way that he was
Okay.
going about things, but agreed to certain extents with his ideology. Like, they said
Yes.
that certain people shouldn't exist
I.
anymore. That's what certain people agreed with on his
Yeah.
part. But yeah, I don't say anything about it.
I think it's also based
I don't
upon
want to.
upon uh what
No, 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 it's
society.
fine.
Oh, what do you say?
No, no, no,
Oh
no,
no,
go.
I think it's also based upon in what society you were born in, right? So, for example, if you were born in Austria at the time when Hitler took over, right, you don't have access to what America or the Britain is saying about Nazi or what or about um um Hitler or the Nazi regime, and all that's exposed to is Nazi propaganda of okay, Jews are bad, this is bad, that's bad. But now I think that social media kind of connects the whole world, and you can see the perspective, and that's another thing I think that's good from social media. You can see a different perspective, not only the perspective of where you are at, but a perspective from another person, and you can see what's actually right and wrong. Because I mean, people living in Austria at the time Hitler took over, they thought Hitler was good, but if they had access to social media and they were hearing what other people were saying, right, would they actually think that Hitler was good? And that's the kind of thing of why I think that social media is also um, kind of good, So yeah.
But do you think that social media is mainly good or is it mainly, let's say, negative?
I think it depends entirely on the person and what their content is. I mean, I wouldn't say it's entirely bad or entirely good. It just depends on the person, right? Because some people's content could be good and other people would have bad content, Like, it just depends, like, or brain rot or whatever, 6, 7, I don't know.
Brain rot.
Yes.
Brain rot. But that's a good point
Yeah.
because then don't you think that media is sliding more towards making people think in a certain way? And that is what causes brain rot because, like zombies in a hive mind, everyone's like consumed into one channel and one
Yes.
path. And
I
the ones who disalign with that path is more seen as irregular or wrong or radicalistic
yes.
because it's not the same.
Yes, I think yeah, you make a good point that it kind of pressurizes you into fitting in with the crowd,
Thinking a certain way. Facts.
even if it's not good, right? And I think that's what's dangerous is that many people they want to fit in with what social media is telling them. Okay, this is good, and that's bad, right? Based on what the morality, based on what people think is right and what is wrong, right? And I think that if you don't have like a solid basis, right, I think that it could be very dangerous because I think over time, like with power, influence, and money, morality,
Money.
yeah, money or power, whatever. Morality kind of changes, right? And what is seen as right and wrong kind of changes. For example,
Yeah.
like 1,000 years ago, right? You wouldn't have seen like, oh well, 1,000 years ago, slavery would have been accepted. Well, it was accepted, and it was supported by many. Um, it was seen as acceptable and legally protected, and it was accepted by many religious leaders and philosophers, right? But if it was in today's time, uh, well, today we can see that slavery is one of the most
Abolished.
yes morally one of the biggest moral failures of the human race, right? And that kind of brings me into my next question is that as a human race, right, have we become better, or has our moral standards just changed? Is it our moral standards, or have we just become better? Does that make sense? Like, I feel like some people feel like, okay, we've progressed a lot, right, as a human race. I think that we're not as um backwards as we were 1,000 years ago. But is it because, not because we have become better as a human race, but because our moral standards as a human race have changed based on time and society?
Well, the thing is, I think I get what you're saying when people say we've become a better race, because obviously, like, we're the most advanced in at least our point in the galaxy, because you don't know what's beyond other galaxies, but we are like very advanced, and we're still advancing. As you can see, like AI can already show us like how futuristic things are gonna be. But then on the moral side, has it even changed? I mean, think about it. Because go back 10,000 years, as you said, or actually,
Yes.
let's go further back. I don't know if 10,000 BC and all that is true, that's actually a bit too far. But let's say
Okay.
around the times of the Prophet Muhammad or
Muslim.
Jesus, around their times, let's use their times as an example. Is their people's moral principles of then any different than it is now? Because yes, we like have more advanced futures than they did, but isn't the thinking basis still the same, which is, wait, this is right, and hold on, this is wrong. And since this is wrong, let's do something to stop that so that we don't do that wrong again. Because isn't that our human conditioning and our human nature?
Yes.
Right is right, meaning I can do it again, and wrong is wrong, meaning, wait, if I'm punished for it, that
But
means
you
I
see,
can't do this again.
I might say something that I don't want like trigger anyone, but so homosexuality, right? As 100 years ago, it would have seen as not acceptable, but today it is acceptable, and that kind of is an indicator that, okay, morality is changing with time. So it's kind of like, I don't think that people think that what was right 100 years ago would think that is right now, because morality changes with time, right? So I'm just curious upon that point, because I wouldn't say like it's, everything is like, obviously we know, like as I said, killing, whatnot, it's all bad, right? That has been proven throughout human history. Like people, it's like the basic basis. But I mean, stuff like minor stuff, or I think that is changing, right? It could be. Or
So you
what's your
think,
opinion on it?
well, let's to think about this because are we gonna specifically mention the gays? Because I want to know
So
if I can
yeah, you
dive in
can.
on that. I want to know if I
I
can
mean,
dive in on this one because
uh,
it's a very specific point. So,
that's
but
your
it has to
choice.
do with the model things also.
That's your choice.
Okay, so let me just use them as an example because were they punished back in the Prophet's times? I just want to know that first.
I wouldn't. I'm not really. I wouldn't know. I'm not. I'm.
Yeah, because I want to know, because if they were punished, how were they punished? I feel like there's a mannerism towards it. Because, like, if they were, for example, stoned and set aflame, that's the same as like shooting. It's the equivalent of that today. So killing, that's killing. That's what I mean. If it's
Yeah.
that, then I think I understand how they viewed it as a negative then, as for why they should cease to exist. But that's a cultural thing. That goes
Mm,
back to a cultural standpoint, which
yes.
is its own moral principle because it's like these people shouldn't be accepted because they're not living our way of life, which we view as normal, making it subjective.
Yes.
And I
So
feel like that's the same today for some people, but since it's been more voiced out and social media has definitely impacted on it, that like everyone should be to their own, everyone can live their own
yeah.
way. Therefore, it's been deemed as acceptable. And I think that specifically, as I just said, actually removes moral principles because then what is the morality?
Mm, that
Because
makes sense.
now
Yes.
the right and the wrong has both been captivated and taken away, held back. And now people can basically be free to do as they wish.
Yes, that makes sense. So laws, um, well, I mean, I think so. People aren't like completely free to do as they wish, right? Because of
Yeah,
laws.
obviously, like for example,
Yeah.
freedom of speech. They say that you have freedom of speech, but yet if you say something bad online as a
Mm,
famous person, you'll get cancelled. So that isn't actually freedom of speech.
yeah, I understand that. Yeah, so there is certain limitations to certain stuff. But I want to take it back to what you said earlier. You said that something along the lines of if people were free or something along those lines that they wouldn't actually be completely good. And I kind of agree with that. So, and I want to ask you, what's your what is your like perspective of do, do you think that if like laws were removed, right, people would be good or more or moral? Do you think they would
Well,
be
you specifically said laws, and I think
like
that's
like like the country
a
laws?
key thing because oh, because like if you take for example countries' laws away, yes, it's gonna impact, but then again, people also have their religious backings. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But like if you take the religious backings away, like those laws away, oh, I actually think that's bigger because now people only have laws to abide by, which is the regulations of a country's settings. And taking away religious laws, I feel like it's a lot because even I follow that to an extent, to a major extent. And it's like,
you understand?
what
Oh,
what would you do? Because what is right and wrong is now held back even further. And that really does set people free because now they really can do like more. They can do more that's, in my opinion, bad because then why did religion exist in the first place? It was there to restrict people from doing what, in my yes, the way I view it is what is actually bad. That's why religion was put there in place to hold people accountable, keep them from doing things that is irregular, at least in a human facet.
yeah,
But I hope they don't remove. Yeah,
I agree with that. And to start back to what Ibrahim said earlier when I asked, like he said that religion could arguably be an enforced morality, right?
I
I
like
think
that
that
one.
law is an enforced morality. In fact,
Also
I think
could be.
law is an
Yes.
enforced morality because we as humans we don't fully trust ourselves without the law, right? If there was no law, it would be a lawless society, all right? And because if humans were naturally, um, if they were naturally um, sort of moral, right? Then we wouldn't need laws and social pressure would be enough to keep the justice. Does that make sense?
But
So
isn't that a bad thing in itself that there's social pressure alone? Because,
yeah, but
you
that's if
know,
humans were inherent or naturally moral, right? But we aren't naturally moral, and that's why there's laws because laws enforce morality. Because without laws, it would be lawless. We would live in a lawless society without morals, and then we'd actually have a real problem because the people that are actually, I mean, I feel like laws keep the peace, honestly.
yeah, you basically saying that laws keep people in place. Um, but okay, let's use that. I see the point of that, but then is crime bad? Yes, because you know it's violence. Violence is bad. We should take that off the bat. But then why does crime still take place even in the heart of protected countries with more laws, shall I say, or more governed laws? And I think if we use our country for example, I think it's one of the countries with the most laws, as in most like written regulations. Yet we have one of the highest crime rates.
Yeah,
So doesn't that mean we should follow what other countries, such as, let's say, Japan, for example, they don't even have that much laws, but their laws are strict. And therefore, their crime rate is not even half of ours.
Yeah, but I think it's also like our environment, right? I think that the environment plays a massive role in the 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 evil and the good that exists within a society. Because, for example, in Japan, you didn't have something like apartheid, or you didn't have in South Africa you had it,
That's the thing.
and a lot of those evils stemmed from apartheid. Wouldn't you say? Because of the
Exactly.
division, yeah. So it's kind of like
But
it's a mixture of laws and environment for me. So it's not like totally laws in that sense.
I 100% get what you're saying. But if that is the case, then using like our country, because I think it's a good example of, oh yes, the difference between poverty and, oh, the rich and the poor, the rich and the poor. It's the biggest difference in the world, our ratio of rich and poor. Because you know the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer. So now my pose to you and all the viewers is, do you think that morally things are different for people that's richer and people that's poorer? But why?
I think I might be wrong in saying this, but I think that wealthier people are less likely to commit crimes, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're wealthy, right, I'll say because you have a lot to lose, right? And especially when poverty is high, you want to survive, right? I mean, when poverty is high in the country, and say for example you poor, you have children to feed, and if you don't feed them, they're gonna die, right? So you need some way, and I feel like crime, especially like selling drugs or whatnot, can help your family, and that's why I think poverty is highly correlated with crime, right? And that's why I think when you're wealthier, you're less likely to do crime because of the fact that you have a lot to lose. When you're poor, you don't have a lot to lose, but you have family to protect and you have things to fulfill, right? Your needs, and that's why that's the difference. I think that's why I think what I think about that situation.
Yeah, and that does tie into our main basis of, are humans inherently evil? Because are they?
I For me, I don't
You know
think so.
why?
Yeah,
Because you just said it. Poverty, which is basically poor,
yeah,
means they're more likely to commit something that's viewed as bad because they, like, let's just say, for example, stealing from a grocery store
yes.
to get food for their family. But if that is the case, then aren't they doing something that's morally good? Because
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't
they
say. I
can't
wouldn't,
afford it. They can't afford it, so they're trying to gain something that they can't exactly achieve in today's times in order to satisfy the needs of the greater good, i.e., their family. They're trying to
so
support.
then I have a question for you. So you're saying are people are people good under good circumstances and bad under bad circumstances, or until circumstances force them to be bad? Is
That's a
that what
good
you're
one.
saying?
That's a good one. That's a good point. You know what? I think we need to use some outside examples here, and I think the first of two that comes to my mind, I don't know if people's gonna understand these references, but we have Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which is where one of the main character basically turns to the bad side because of things that's affected his life, which is like traumas. And I think I can say the
But
exact
this,
same for the Dark
I like
Knight.
him though. I like Darth
Yeah, I
Vader.
know. But I can say the same thing for the Dark Knight, which is Two-Face. Two-Face is was a good man. Let's just put it that way. And he eventually became evil because he lost someone that was important to him. And that makes him,
Yeah.
does that actually make him morally bad?
Wait,
He
wait,
just,
wait, 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 wait. Is Hitler morally bad? Because I mean, he got rejected from art school, and then he got accepted to World War.
yeah, even
That could
him.
be,
He's a real life example.
yeah. But I mean, I'd say Hitler's bad though. He could have taken another path.
Yeah, there's obviously alternatives to dealing with anger, trauma, and, social public issues.
Yes.
But I think he knew that within himself that he had the power to not only lead others, but to dominate in, it's a weird way to describing it for him because he knew that he could do what he did.
Yeah.
And he actually could have actually won in the end if you think about it. He could have.
And that's another thing. Okay, wait. Let's first answer Danielle. I'm gonna get back to that. Danielle's asking, Shadley, as an expert in marketing, do you think
This is
capitalism
now about-
is inherently evil?
That's also, I think we were gonna get to that point, or maybe I missed it. But evil. Remember, evil is immoral. That's the way we're viewing this, or it's bad deeds. And it is, isn't it? Because that's why, it's, as we mentioned, the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer. And then why is capitalism instated? It's not like it's its own law, right, Mikhail?
Yes,
It, it's there to for someone to gain,
yes,
and then someone's going to lose in that
makes sense.
specific type of environment.
Yeah, I understand that. So then you said something about gain, and I have a question. Do you think people are only good if they have something to gain in life?
Listen, I think that specific thing is what determines what makes the difference of what a good person is, as in good natured,
Mm,
versus what I just realized that technically could be manipulation. I just realized it now. That
yeah,
literally determines what could be inherently a good natured person versus
a bad
what
person.
I think
There's
shouldn't even be
alternatives.
considered a
Yeah,
person at all,
yes.
because they're putting their needs of their self first versus the needs of others first.
But I don't know if you saw this with babies, but usually like if they're under 18 months, right? And you drop something, they pick it up and they give it back to you without anything in return. Wouldn't you say like that's innate and that's an innate altruism and something that's good? But also, if you take it to a certain extent, I think that humans, like when they grow up, if they have abundance, right, they would be willing to give, and I think that's true altruism, right? But if there's scarcity, then I don't think they would give, because if there's scarcity, then they're more likely to be selfish. But if they had an abundance, they're more likely to give out of altruism. Does that make sense? So is it because if they have an abundance, they're more likely to be good and more likely to not want anything in return? But if it's scarcity, they they're more likely to be selfish and they're more likely to give just to want something. I don't.
Exactly. As a good man once said, scarcity is a mother flipper. And that's true
Yeah.
because if people had everything since they were born, then what would their expectations be
Wait,
and what would
was
their
that Jackson?
what do you mean who quoted that?
Yes.
It's an undefined person.
Oh, okay.
But the point is like you get it, like if people have everything they have or they need in life, there's not much to worry about. But if there's scarcity, there's more to worry about. There's more at stake, there's more decisions that need to be taken to the line, and that's what actually forms a stronger moral basis, in my opinion, because now you definitely know
Yeah.
what's should be given to
Yes.
good and what should be taken from bad.
Makes sense. We covered a lot here, so I just want to ask a couple of questions. Well, a closing question. Um, what does the fact of even like having this discussion about this topic say about us as humans and ourselves?
Personally, I think that it shows that we are at least aware. And I think this links back to earlier, like what we said about social media, is that it's like a train that takes most people along the ride in a certain direction. And those that's like separate from it is viewed differently, for good or for bad. But like this shows that we have like outside perspectives, and I expect more people to think outside the box, as I
Yes.
think I should say.
Yeah.
Outside the
So,
box, because you shouldn't be thinking like everyone else. You should be yourself, and
self-reflection.
you. Well, it's not exactly always self-reflection, but it's thinking the way that you want to think, and not thinking the way that others want you to think.
Okay, makes sense. Yes. I think that would. I agree with everything, but I think that would wrap it up for today. And I'm sorry if I was a bit energetic, though. I had a lot of coffee.
I like it.
I
I like it.
apologize.
Personally,
Yes.
I like it. If the other people don't like it, then they are immorally bad people.
Yes. Oh, anything final you want to say?
Anything final I want to say? Well, there's way more to discuss on this topic, but I understand that you can't actually discuss everything on a topic like this in one day.
Yes. We
And
should have a second
barring
podcast,
that,
and Danielle should join.
I never said that. And barring that, like I do thank you for the opportunity
I thank
to
you for
be
being on
on
my
this
podcast.
podcast.
I thank you for
And
being on my
I
podcast.
thanked you first though,
No,
but
thank you.
like
I
I
thank you first.
think,
I thank you first.
but yeah, it feels like a privilege in its own way. Even if it's
Yeah,
like,
I
let's
actually
just say
thank you
this
at the
only
beginning.
gets,
Yeah, sorry.
even if this is only gets like 10 views and stuff, like it's not even about the views for
It's
me. It's just
about
like
fun.
having the
Yeah,
conversation.
I'm not gonna lie. This is fun. I enjoyed it.
And yeah, I would do something like this again, even if it's a
Yes.
completely controversial.
Hey,
Okay,
no,
yeah,
wait, not
controversial topic. I don't even care. I
okay.
just realized I don't care, so
Okay,
it's
like
fine.
for example,
What do you mean? For
controversial
example,
topic as.
gay people. Nah, I don't know. I
Okay,
don't know. I imagine though. Imagine though.
I think we must get Danielle on for that one.
What? Okay, actually, that is its own conversation. I would have said something, but it would lead to
Yeah.
a tangent.
Okay. Apologies again for being so energetic. Thank you, Shadley, so much
I like it
for being on the
personally.
show. And Danielle says lol. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much. I'll see you.
Yeah, sure.
Take care.
Thanks so much.
Apo, and I'll see you.
Anytime.
Salam.
See you.